Good day, everyone, and I hope they're safe and healthy. For you to be updated with the latest lecture videos of our course, kindly click the subscribe button. For this week's lesson, we're going to discuss about needs assessment writing. This is a very essential topic because the data of your interview will be the basis of writing your needs assessment, and the results of your needs assessment will be the basis in finalizing the topic of your research proposal. But before we proceed, I have a profound question, and that is, what are the conventions of writing a needs assessment? Find the answers as we go on, so come and let's learn. The objectives for this lesson are 1. Analyze video recorded interviews to generate the needs assessment, and 2. Write the needs assessment based on the analyzed video recorded interviews. Let's begin with the first question, and that is, in your own words, what is a needs assessment? Let's take a look.
It refers to the process that determines my needs and deficiencies in line to my research.
For me, it is the deed of determining what you really need and to know what should be prioritized.
It is a process of knowing and determining how to bridge the gap between the research current state and desired state.
A study or a process of analyzing what strategies must be applied to the existing gaps or problems of a certain condition.
Distinguishing what the needs and wants are in a particular subject.
A needs assessment is a procedure to determine needs, examine the cause, and plan for an action.
Needs assessment is the process of addressing and filling in the lacking needs of a current condition.
Needs assessment is a methodical procedure wherein issues or deficiencies are determined to create appropriate, sufficient, and feasible solutions.
It is a process of determining what is needed before reaching a desired goal based on those needs.
It is a process of determining and tending to necessities. Its purpose is to identify which people are in need and separated from different classifications of individual.
It is a process of gathering information and sufficient data that addresses the interviewer's needs and wants.
It is the process where you determine the gaps of your current conditions and those that needed to be improved upon.
It is a process that debates needs over wants.
Needs assessment is a process of improvement of services, education, and it can also apply in businesses to reach their certain goals.
Needs assessments are research programs that gather information or evaluate the relevance on the needs of particular people or groups in a society.
An analytical process in which we aim for the needs and wants head-on.
A list assessment is a list of things needed to get the research done.
If we say needs assessment, we're looking at the problems, and in this particular course, we're looking at the problems of the community related to a degree. And your task is to create a solution or an intervention program to eliminate these problems. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, after conducting your interview, what should you do with your gathered data? Let's take a look.
I must transcribe the collected data precisely, and by no means am I legally allowed to add any additional words.
Compile, because in some instances we might need it to review something or use as evidence.
Transcribe it with accuracy. Type the complete words that are spoken in the recorded video.
Interpret the collected data in a specified way and fix grammatical errors and other existing issues.
Scrutinize and note down important details given by the interviewee.
Transcribe, analyze, and interpret the data to give concrete form to the meaning of the interview.
Backing up your recorded data is essential in case your data gets corrupted and lose all your data gathered.
After the interview, the recorded videos should be appropriately labeled and double-checked to avoid discrepancies during the transcription process.
To compile, analyze, and secure the data, as it is essential to know the results and not lose it.
Take away all of the data you've gathered for analysis.
You must analyze the collected data and identify the issues and the possible solutions for the research topic.
Plan an approach or steps while analyzing and interpreting the gathered data.
I will compile it as a single video and rewatch it again to ensure all information are accurately transcribed.
By reviewing the data and pinpoint the important details of the interview.
Transcribe every word from the recorded videos so that data can be analyzed and interpreted efficiently.
Secure the gathered data and prepare the necessary tools in processing the said data.
We should compile them and keep them in one folder.
And these are the things that you need to do. 1. You have to save your files in your laptop, or you may save your files online. For instance, you may email or upload your files in your Google Drive. And another thing here is you need to transcribe. If you say transcribe, you have to transform the video recorded interviews into written texts. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is transcription. And the question is, how should you transcribe your recorded videos? Let's take a look.
As much as possible, it has to be word per word, and I must not paraphrase any lines within the collected data.
We can manually transcribe it word per word as long as the respondents are just a bit.
Do not paraphrase. Type the actual words spoken.
By watching the video and listening to it carefully, then write down what exactly the interviewee has spoken.
A simple encoded soft copy of the whole interview would be the way to go.
Listen carefully and transcribe. Read it several times in order to be familiarized. Code the interview, write a summary, and write an interpretation.
Transcribe the recorded videos word for word through writing or typing.
Transcription should be verbatim and include necessary details such as names, setting, date, and time.
Using an audio transcription software is advised as it saves time, especially if there are lots of videos.
Be accurate and only type the words that are spoken in the recorded video, and also do not paraphrase it or add additional information.
I will take the recorded video and convert it into a written documentation of the recorded video.
Closely observe the data through repeated careful listening or watching and taking down relevant information.
I will transcribe all information accurately without any alteration or fabrication.
Focus on the information and it can be written or encoded to arrange the recorded video detail by detail.
Transcribe the recorded videos honestly and fairly. Should not manipulate the information delivered by the respondents.
Write down the details as accurate as possible and do not paraphrase anything.
Identify the ones who has a big impact on the research.
And these are the tips that you have to do in transcribing the video recorded interviews. The first thing here is you should not edit the responses of your respondents. And in that case, that includes the pauses and emotions of your respondents while answering the questions. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, what if your respondents employed stuttering words, committed grammatical errors, or used translanguaging techniques in the recorded interviews? What should you do and why? Let's take a look.
Every word delivered by the respondent is significant. Hence, stutters, grammatical errors, etc. must be included.
Just ignore because they might trying their best to speak fluently without errors, but as you edit, just cut them off.
Lightly edit non-verbatim words to remove stutter. In other hand, include translanguaging word exactly as what you've heard.
Grammatical errors and translanguaging must be fixed and translated to avoid confusion, and filters must be excluded so that we can provide specific and clear information.
Clarify it after their answers, translate other dialects, and to encode words and not stutters.
You still need to write the stuttering because in order to have an accurate transcript, words, muffles, and other noises should be deciphered.
Correct their errors when transcribing or translating as minimal and accurate to their actual statement as possible.
Stick to the verbatim transcription to retain the holistic meaning and then clarify by using symbols or bracketing the translation.
If this happens, it would be better to ask the respondent again and to just get the gist of his or her words.
Clean up non-verbatim work to remove false starts, filler, and stutters.
I will give my respondents time to compose themselves and reassure them that it is okay, so that they will have the confidence to give a more concise answer.
Putting a subtitle because it provides clear information and alters stuttering words and other errors from the interview.
I'll just let it all slide because I understand that not everyone could do very well on interviews.
It is understandable under the circumstances of having interviewed conversations, so I will just edit the recorded video.
To ensure that the flow of transcription is clear and easy to read without changing the core message of the conversation, we should use edited transcription that corrects grammatical errors and excludes stuttering words.
In this case matter, remove only those unnecessary word fillers and remain accurate despite some errors to avoid thought blockers on the interviewer's response.
I'm still gonna push through the interview, so in that way, the interview is raw and unscripted.
Take note, include everything. For instance, the stuttering words such as ums and ahs. It's also possible that respondents use translanguaging techniques. If you say translanguaging, that refers to the complex process of using two or more languages in a single utterance, combining the linguistic and semiotic repertoires of the languages employed. For instance, if respondents answered using English and Cebuano, that's fine. You have to provide everything. Another thing here is if your respondents committed grammatical errors, that's also fine because later you will do this thing, and that is the refinement. Because after doing those things, you may not proceed to the next steps, and that is one, you need to insert brackets. You need to insert brackets for corrections. For instance, one of the problems in the community is malnutrition. Problem there lacks S. So in that case, you need to insert bracket and S. And the corrected version will be one of the problem, open bracket, S, close bracket, in the community is malnutrition. So that's how you correct the responses of your respondents. Another thing here is if respondents use this, these, and that, they committed unclear antecedents. And in that case, you have to provide the antecedent. And to correct the unclear antecedents, you have to use open bracket and then insert the antecedent and then close bracket. For instance, this exists because of lack of education and training. And this there is an unclear antecedent. For instance, if your respondent refers this as poor comprehension skill, then you have to provide the correction. For instance, that becomes this and then open bracket, poor comprehension skill, close bracket exists because of lack of education and training. So that's how you correct unclear antecedents. Another thing here is translation. If your respondents use Cebuano in their responses, or if they use translanguaging, take note, if they say translanguaging, if your respondents use two or more languages in a single utterance, you have to provide the translation and you have to insert open and close parentheses. For instance, naglagoy bitaw ko nga dili maglaag, and then the translated version is I want you not to go anywhere. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is based on your collected data, what should include in your needs assessment report? Let's take a look.
It must include my interpretations of the gathered data and illustrate the necessities that are needed to progress as well.
It should include related discussion together with the graphs and chart to interpret the collected data and findings.
It should only include data that will meet the current and desired state of your research.
Provide the collected data and plans for implementing strategies.
Scrutinize data, findings, and the whole interview process.
It must include the process, summary of the results, description of how it was analyzed, and how the analysis supports the needs for your future action.
Include only the necessary data significant to the study.
Include data that are relevant, reasonable in resource allocation, and inclined with the objectives of the assessment.
Providing a summary of the results and what these results mean should be the top priority.
It must indicate how the process was conducted, provide a summary of the results, and a description of how these data were analyzed and how it supports the need for new expansion.
It must include of information that is relevant and gives importance to the research topic.
Include those current conditions needed that pointed out key points of the interview.
I will include all obtained information that are relevant to the topic itself.
I should include the summary of outcomes of the conducted interview.
A needs assessment is a data-intensive report, so it should need to compile data that are specific to the research study and should also include recommended ways to respond to the needs outlined in the report.
Enter the key purpose, analyze the data, and recommend methods to address such gaps and wants.
The interview and the hard copy data are needed.
You have to include the following. The first thing that you have to include are the themes. Themes refer to the significant, unique, and common responses of your respondents. Let's begin with the significant responses. These are the meaningful, crucial, indicative, suggestive, and informative answers of your interviewees. If you say unique responses, these are the peculiar, distinctive, and exceptional responses of your participants. And these responses could not be found in the responses of your other interviewees. And common responses refer to the repetitive responses of your respondents. For instance, Two or more respondents answered the same thing. So that refers to common responses. And the next step that you need to do is you need to highlight the themes. As I said earlier, highlight the significant, unique, and common responses of your interviewees. Use yellow highlights on this matter and take note, do not highlight everything. Just highlight the themes. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, based on your gathered data, what should you exclude in your needs assessment report? Let's take a look.
Needs that are not relevant with the collected output must be excluded.
Exclude irrelevant or unnecessary things like what you want but definitely unnecessary or needed.
Exclude data that are off topics and not beneficial in meeting the needs of your research.
Ostracize unnecessary and irrelevant information.
Exclude areas that are not considered as needs and eliminate causes that are not related to the identified needs.
Exclude the unnecessary, redundant, or overly sensitive statements in the assessment report.
Exclude the figures that are not feasible, inappropriate, and far out from the objectives of the conducted assessment.
Unnecessary data should be excluded, or those data that does not provide insight to the cost of the assessment.
Exclude unnecessary information and focus only on the things that needs assessment.
When transcribing the recorded videos, I will exclude the information that was given that is not relevant to my research topic.
Exclude those desired conditions that hasn't clearly pointed out the key points of the interview.
I will exclude any irrelevant information that I've gathered from my respondent.
Those data that not should be included in the needs assessment report.
Should exclude irrelevant information that may interfere with the study's purpose.
Irrelevant and sensitive details in data in the subject matter.
Unnecessary data collected that aren't really needed in the research.
And these are the things that you have to exclude. 1. Irrelevant responses, and these are the not significant answers of your respondents. You also exclude the identity. As mentioned in the informed consent form, you have to protect the identity of your respondents. And then take note, do not manipulate the data. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, how will you write your needs assessment report using your collected data? Let's take a look.
Plausibly, the needs that will be mentioned must be in line with my stated purpose.
First thing would be identify what I want to obtain, focus on the data I have collected, interpret and analyze the results.
Interpret and analyze your data. Highlight information that can help you draw to a conclusion.
By providing charts or graphs to represent or report the gathered data.
Identify the relevance to the report and to correlate the findings.
The report must include description of the needs process, major outcomes, priority needs, action plans, and recommendations.
Write the assessment report in a formal and concise manner complete with all the necessary data.
It should be well ordered, wherein the analyzed result would indicate the specified issues and the concluded strategies.
It should be summarized and should provide information in closing the gap or in reaching the desired goal.
You should identify your purpose, gather the relevant data, interpret and analyze your findings, and recommend next steps.
I will establish the problem and issues and jot down the needed solutions for this predicament.
First, identify your objectives. Second, gather relevant data. Third and fourth, you should interpret and analyze your findings.
I will interpret and analyze specific information that are crucial to the topic.
By expounding it clearly to make my point and to be understandable that will grab the reader's attention.
Clearly identify the reason for writing a needs assessment report and narrowly tailor the purpose to help gather the appropriate data for the research study.
Input and explain the pertinent idea covered in the assessment report in an organized manner.
First, write the desired outcome and then write the current outcome.
Generally, a needs assessment includes an abstract, introduction, review of literature, results, and conclusions. And in this particular course, we will just use the simplified version. So you have to just provide the following. Individually, you have to provide the refined transcripts of your interview. And take note, use yellow highlights. Just highlight the themes. Another thing here is, as a group activity, you have to provide the summary, a brief discussion, and then a short conclusion of your needs assessment report. Let's proceed to the last question, and that is, what should you do after writing your needs assessment report? Let's take a look.
I can then use my needs assessment report to guide me further regarding what needs to be done.
Reread and let someone to proofread so that it will be able to be corrected and evaluated the errors.
Carry out the plan. It will provide you a detailed information on what needs you have and what could possibly help to meet those needs.
Analyze and interpret results, which will then use for planning and implementing future actions.
Establish a plan or a course of action and assess results and progress.
Needs assessment is a continuous improvement cycle. Therefore, you must create a new plan in order to make an updated assessment.
After the assessment report, conclude what is needed from the data gathered and make attempts to meet those needs.
Try to accomplish what you have written by cooperating with the authority to implement the formulated resolutions.
It would be to interpret the next steps so as to provide a solution to the problem or to achieve a goal.
After the assessment, a care plan should be agreed with you and a copy given to you. This will detail what needs you have and what could help to meet those needs.
I must summarize the results and reflect the data of my needs assessment's objectives, and share my findings internally and externally.
After the assessment, a plan should be agreed. This will detail what needs you have and what could help to meet those needs.
I will compare it from similar needs assessment reports and use it to further enhance mine.
Assessing it or evaluate the report to know what might missing or forgotten.
Should review and apply the requirements and goals as required, then carry out the action plan and evaluate its progress.
Test the waters in the assessment scope and pinpoint other needs to fully complete the assessment.
Compile the interview and write a final conclusion of the interview.
You have to consider the following. The first thing that you have to do is proofread. Take note, good grammar counts. And to help you in this matter, you may also use Grammarly. Just visit www.grammarly.com. If you're using Microsoft Word, you may download Grammarly extension for Microsoft Word. And the last step that you need to do is you need to save and share your files with your group mates. Take note all the guidelines that I have provided in this lecture video so that you will be guided on the conventions of writing your needs assessment report. If you got questions regarding this lesson or you get queries of any concern, drop an email at f.rene.bonifacio@cmu.edu.ph. I'll attend to your queries as fast as I can. And as always, God bless and stay healthy.